Domino's shouldn't be alive. Their business was crumbling in the 2000s with an all-time low share price, falling revenue, and the worst pizza in America. People hated Domino's and they were on the brink of bankruptcy. But today, Domino's is wildly popular and profitable. They even became the second fastest growing stock of the 2010s, beating out tech giants like Netflix, Apple, Google, and Nvidia. Something happened, but what? How did Domino's escape oblivion when they should have died? It all began with one survey. On customer taste, Domino's ranked dead last in pizza taste, tying with Chuck E. Cheese, which, for context, hosted children's birthdays. Why? Well, Domino's had gone all in on a different strategy: speed. They created the famous 30-minute delivery guarantee, where if your pizza was late, it was free. In their eyes, they didn't have to be the best pizza, just the fastest. Everything was sacrificed in the name of speed. This policy encouraged dangerous driving. In 1992, one woman in Indiana was killed by a speeding delivery driver. The following year, another woman was injured when a delivery driver ran through a red light and collided with her car. Both of these resulted in major lawsuits and cost Domino's millions in legal fees and payouts. Domino's quickly dropped the guarantee, but the philosophy remained: speed over quality. That worked in the 80s and 90s, but by the 2000s, it wasn't holding up. Consumer taste had changed and wanted better. It didn't matter if your pizza arrived fast, if it was awful. People hated Domino's. Around the same time, the 2008 financial crash hit. With less money, people wanted better value. Typically, this means people will try to buy cheaper, which can mean buying fast food. But not Domino's. Nobody wanted to waste money on bad pizza, even if it came slightly quicker. And while things were bad outside Domino's, internally things were terrible. Domino's had taken on a mountain of debt right before the financial crash, over $1.7 billion. That might not sound like a lot for a fast food giant, but at the time, it was more than Domino's revenue, about $1.46 billion. And that number was going down. $1.42 billion in 2008, then to barely $1.40 billion in 2009. This was bad. Their share price had also fallen to a measly $8. Employee turnover was at an all-time high. Stores were inefficient and often understaffed. Domino's had been around forever, but now there was a very real chance they'd close for good. If they wanted to survive, they needed drastic action. They needed to take a risk and try something different. First, they had to figure out what had gone wrong with their staff. The CEO, David Brandon, decided to dig deep and figure out why everyone was leaving. He participated in the same training program all frontline employees did. He talked to these workers and what they thought Domino's should do. In his search, he found low morale from workers and store managers without direction. There was a massive disconnect between corporate and the people on the ground. This mattered. These were the people getting the customer complaints and making the pizzas every single day. Before David could make major changes, he had to get these people on his side. Domino's began to relax the strict dress code so staff could be more comfortable while working. He also introduced new leadership training for managers. But most of all, he introduced stems for tracking performance and gathering employee feedback. David began to reform Domino's culture, and his successor, Patrick Doyle, would take this to the next level. He continued listening to employees, but he was going to take a leap of faith and revamp Domino's in its entirety. The thing that had to change the most was the food. Plain and simple. To get to the root of the problem, he began to conduct research. They ran focus groups for honest feedback, and as he and leadership watched, the feedback was brutal. Comments like cardboard crust, worse pizza, no flavor, artificial cheese, and many, many more negative remarks were common. "We need to start from scratch," Doyle said. Domino's were going to overhaul everything, but fixing the pizza was only half the problem. Remember, Domino's was ranked the worst. They needed to win customers back. They needed another chance, but that's an extremely hard thing to do. Most people won't come back somewhere where they had a bad experience. Domino's was facing an uphill battle, so Patrick Doyle decided to make a massive gamble. He would go all in on transparency. Most businesses would quietly change their product and hope they slowly win back customers, but never acknowledge the negatives publicly. Doyle was going to do the exact opposite. Domino's was going to be honest. The campaign was called "Sorry We Suck," a massive marketing effort to show customers three things: they had messed up, they were changing, and asking for another chance. Those focus groups you watched earlier, with the comments about cardboard crust, were from Domino's official advertising. It was an admission of wrongdoing and acknowledgement of feedback. There were billboards in Times Square showing honest, real reviews from customers. Doyle even admitted in ads that, "We haven't been using real cheese." Terrible things to say about your company, but everyone already knew it, even subconsciously. Doyle explained that the old days of trying to spin things simply doesn't work anymore. Great brands going forward are going to have a level of honesty and transparency that hasn't been seen before. Simultaneously, they were showing that they had changed. Yes, they were using real cheese now. They needed this to work. Their very survival was betting on it. Franchisees also agreed to increase their contribution to the advertising fund, as much as 5.5% of all sales. The tension at Domino's was sky high. "I'd be lying if I told you I didn't have a knot in my stomach the day that advertising launched," said Doyle. Everyone was betting on this, because if it failed, Domino's would be done for. So, how did it play out? The first response was confusion. A brand admitting their product sucks. In Marketing 101, this is considered brand suicide. You never admit past decisions were wrong or your product is bad, even if you're fixing it. But Domino's did it anyway. The media began to report on the wild strategy and Domino's honesty. One thing was quickly clear. People were taking notice. But was it the right attention or the wrong kind? Would it just reinforce the existing negative opinions? The response was immediate and overwhelming. In the following year, 2010, US same-store sales jumped 9.9%, the first time they even had growth since 2007. That doesn't sound like much, but this is the American fast food market, an industry that's mature and very saturated. Achieving even 1 to 3% growth is very impressive. Almost 10% was unheard of, especially with a brand known for bad products. Something was happening. In 2010, Domino's revenue grew for the first time in almost 5 years by about $170 million. But then, something interesting happened. That growth began to accelerate. More and more people were trying Domino's new pizza and returning. Every single year for the next decade, Domino's revenue grew, and with it, their share price. The gamble had paid off, but Doyle wasn't finished. With problems fixed, he could now look ahead to the future. Domino's began introducing new technology for online orders, introducing mobile ordering, and better order tracking for customers. They hired more staff to analyze their digital data to better serve customers. In fact, pretty soon, half of the workers at Domino's HQ were software analysts. They had turned around the brand and were now growing to new heights. Doyle's strategy was paying off. In fact, it was one of the most successful business turnarounds in decades. But that's not all. The culture change led by David Brandon, then Patrick Doyle, was also paying off. Employee turnover was going down, and morale was going up. In 2015, the Detroit Free Press Top Workplaces surveyed over 61,000 employees on what they thought of their leadership. Doyle was named the best and won the Top Workplaces Leadership Award. Employees loved his communication, honesty, and his transparency. One employee in the survey wrote, "Doyle knows how to make people excited about Domino's Pizza and continue to work hard for the company." Doyle has since moved on from Domino's, but he changed the company forever. His strategy was risky, but it had to be. It had to be bold, ambitious, and a bit crazy. The company was dying after all. You don't get dramatic change without some risk. Doyle explained that, "I think the vast majority of companies are far too conservative in how they approach risk. They simply spend too much time trying to figure out how to de-risk. Rather than dwell on avoiding mistakes, it's important to customers and employees of a winning organization to inspire through our action." Luckily for Domino's, this risk paid off big time, and it also showed everyone something else. When companies are honest, transparent, and showing they're changing, people give them a second chance.